What is up? What is going on, everybody? I am back with another Seattle Mariners video. Going to break down a couple topics of discussion today. Before I dive into it, do me a favor, hit that like button for me. That just helps tremendously. Even if it's a video you don't care about too much, it does help my channel out, gets it out to more people. And if you're new here, do me a favor, hit that subscribe button. Both help out more than you guys could possibly know. I apologize for not much videos this week. Obviously had the Christmas holiday, and then the classic post-Christmas flu cold came through our house. I'm still getting over it a little bit here. So I appreciate everybody's patience with that. And sorry for not having any content up, but I figure everyone kind of enjoying their Christmas holiday. Also think about becoming a channel member if you have not yet. I know I haven't done a ton of stuff for the members recently, but once we get into baseball season, there will be members only live streams with giveaways during pretty much all the streams. And if you don't want to become a member, no worries. There'll still be live streams for non-members with giveaways as well. But it does help support the channel tremendously. So if you haven't yet, think about becoming a channel member. And we're changing this to the Trident talk instead of Mariners talk. I don't know, just a little more catchy. So the two things I'm going to break down in this video, go a little bit more in depth on the Mitch Garver signing. And I'm going to talk a little bit about Luis Castillo. There's been some, I don't know if I'd call them even rumors, but talk that of possibly a trade with Castillo, and I'll go over and give my thoughts on that. So let's start with Mitch Garver. I did a quick video Christmas Eve. Obviously, we had 30 people at the house, so I had to go to a room with nobody in it, and I was able to do a quick 3-4 minute video just going over the signing a little bit. Excuse me, couldn't pull the numbers up or anything like that. So, but I gave the signing a stamp of approval. And here's the thing. I talked about in a video last week. There were 6 options out there for the Mariners to get better at DH. And DH was a clear spot where this team needed an upgrade. And truly a fairly easy spot to upgrade, right? Like you could make a case some of the outfield stuff's a little tricky, infield stuff, pitching, a little bit tricky, but DH was just obvious, right? You had Taylor Trammell before the Garver signing penciled in as the DH. Maybe Zach DeLoach as well, and Cal getting a few at-bats there. So a clear place to make an upgrade. And you had 6 names that were obvious upgrades that were free agents. Jorge Soler, Teoscar Hernandez, Mitch Garver, JD Martinez, Justin Turner, and Rhys Hoskins. All guys that would be upgrades over Taylor Trammell, getting everyday DH at-bats. It's also a position that, truthfully, since Nelson Cruz is gone and the half season of Encarnacion, the Mariners have just not been steady at DH. They've tried to sort of use the DH as a resting spot. I think that was the goal last year, but then Dylan Moore got hurt. Taylor Trammell was hurt. So some of your outfield, infield depth was gone. And I think that was the goal last year, was going to be like, hey, Dylan Moore plays third, Gino DHs, Tom Murphy catches, Cal DHs, but Tom got off to a slow start. Dylan Moore was hurt. He struggled when he came back, so it just didn't work out. And I understand what they tried to do with it, and it does make some sense, but it's nice to have somebody you can just put into that DH spot, pencil them in, and you should get solid offensive production. Like I said, out of the 6 names, I think you could pick any one of them, and they could. I kind of made the point that you could simulate 500 seasons, and I think at some point, all 6 of those guys would come up with the best season. If you want to make case, Soler would have been the better signing, fine. Teo, fine. All of them. If you want to make that case for any one of them, I think that's fine. But Garver was one of the guys in that group, and it is an upgrade. Now, that doesn't mean that Mitch Garver is a lock to be an amazing hitter. He's had some injury struggles over the last couple of years. He missed time with forearm surgery in 2022 in July, missed the rest of the season. And in 2023, he missed most of April and May with a knee injury that he suffered. So, and it wasn't just from catching. Now, I mean, it might have been from catching in the past, and he had some injuries and whatnot, but it wasn't like anything happened to him while he was catching necessarily. So, there's a chance that Mitch Garver misses some time this year. It's one of the risks, right? Unfortunately, the surefire guys were either already signed or they were in past free agencies. So, if you don't like the Mitch Garver signing, I get it. I can understand there being some drawbacks. But in terms of what this free agency class had, I think it's fine. I can't make videos and say, hey, they need to go do something. Then they sign one of the guys I mentioned would be an upgrade and get mad at it. The deal seems fair. 2 years, $24 million. Sounds like there's a 3rd year mutual option, which is interesting. And could be beneficial to both sides depending on how the first two seasons go. Um, but yeah, I like the signing. Garver slashed with the batting average of 270, OBP of 370, slugging of 500 last year. He caught about 40 games. I expect to see something similar. I think initially he is going to be primarily just a designated hitter. Until he can show he can stay healthy, I don't think they're going to risk putting him at catcher a ton unless it's emergency situation or something like that. Now, if he can be healthy for April, May, June, I think you might see him catch a little bit more. It gives you a good bat in the lineup. Cal can DH or get some time off. Listen, this team has rode Cal Raleigh the last two seasons at the end of the year, and rightfully so, right? Like, you got to have your best bats in there in a playoff push. But it would be nice to be able to, in August, give Cal a day off and not sweat too much about it. I do think Zebby Zavala still makes the roster. I think he's out of options, so he almost has to. He is a really good defensive catcher, good framer. And if Garver works in and does some catching, I'm actually okay with Zavala being on the roster. I don't mind having a good defensive catcher as kind of your third option. Essentially, maybe in some extra inning games, he can steal a couple strikes for you. Never hurts to have that. Especially, Garver's not much of a defensive catcher, it'd be more just the bat. So I'm not here coming on here defending Zebby Zavala, didn't like the trade or anything like that. But, there is some ways that they can make this work. I'm going to pull up Mitch Garver's Baseball Savant page here real quick. We'll go over that, and then we'll hop into some of the next stuff as well. And there it is, just for anybody, new or hasn't checked out Savant. Really cool website. During the season, they have great win probability charts live. They'll talk about expected batting average on hits and stuff like that. Amount of ballparks the hit would have been out at, or a home run would have been out at, whatever. So this is Mitch Garver's 2023 percentile rankings, all very good. Obviously, the expected weighted on base average is high, expected slugging is high. What I love here is the chase rate being elite. So he's not going to go fishing out of the strike zone for pitches. We saw this team have a lot of issues last year in some of these extra inning games, where they'd have bases loaded, nobody out, and you get a lot of guys whiffing and chasing on pitches that were out of the zone. They might make contact with it, but they hit it weak, and teams were able to get out of some of these situations. Garver's going to take his walks. He's not going to expand the zone too much. Does not strike out a ton. His K percentile is 36, so it's actually he does strike out. That blue is bad, so he does strike out a little bit. I apologize, and I'm still getting over the flu, so be patient with me a little bit on some of that. So Garver does strike out a little bit, but does not chase outside the zone and does walk a lot as well. And it's not, the strikeout percentage is, in the 36th percentile. So it's not awful. It's not like bottom 10 or anything like that. It's more in, kind of the medium, low mid range, I guess you could put it. So, it is someone that's going to strike out a little bit, but not to the extent of maybe what we've seen in the past with guys like Teo and stuff like that. So I think it's a good addition. The question is going to be, can he stay healthy? He's 32. He's caught a lot of games. So, catchers always have more injuries here and there than a lot of other positional players. The numbers clearly last year, as I highlighted there, 2023, were outstanding. A little rough in 2022 in 215 at-bats, and then just 243 in 2021. So that would be my main concern. Can Mitch Garver stay healthy? That's probably where him being maybe the cheaper of those six guys I talked about comes into play. You'd like to see someone that's maybe had 500 at bats. So like I said, listen, there's certainly reasons to be skeptical. It could definitely not work out. It wouldn't be the first time the Mariners have made free agent signings and stuff like that haven't worked out. I will say it's interesting that Garver is the highest paid positional player free agent that Jerry Dipoto has signed. At least I think so. Because he had Aoki for a while, Pollock last year, and I'm pretty sure annually Garver is making more than what they signed Pollock for last season. So I lost my train of thought there. Yeah, so there's definitely reasons that it might flop. Like I said, the injury risk is there for Garver. You'd like to get more than those at-bats that he's had 21 through 23. But again, I will say it's like all six of those guys I talked about have some risks, right? That's why I said throw them in a blender, and there's going to be simulations where Teoscar's the best hitter of that group, and then Hoskins is the best, and then Garver's the best. So you just have to hope for the best. You have to hope that Mitch Garver has that season that is better than it does. I don't really care if he's better than the other guys, I guess, necessarily, but you just hope that's you get a solid season from Garver. The percentile rankings are very strong. The slash line from last year, extremely strong. Being a right-handed hitter in T-Mobile is always a little risky. It's a hard place to hit for righties. So, like I said, there's definitely some risk, but all those DH guys are right-handed, if I'm not mistaken, right? Soler, Teo, Garver, Turner, yeah, those are all right-handed hitters as well. And then you have to take into fact the Mariners' budget and what they have to spend. I know some people talk to some people that really prefer JD Martinez. It might just be out of the Mariners' price range, which sucks, but it just might be the case there. So I like the Garver signing. And here's the other thing. It's an addition that just makes them better. Even if Garver misses some time, you're still looking at better production from the DH position than rolling out Taylor Trammell every day or Zach DeLoach or whoever, gets those DH at bats. So you don't have to give up prospects. You don't have to send away minor leaguers that you have hope for in the future to get Garver. You don't have to trade pitching to get a hitter where it's like, yeah, the offense is better, but now the pitching takes a little bit of a hit. It's a free agent signing. It's a straight up addition. You're bringing in Mitch Garver. He's going to give you better production than what was currently on the roster. I'm fine with the move. Do I think this puts the Mariners over the top and I'm singing the World Series songs now? Of course not. But it is a clear upgrade at DH, a position that clearly needed an upgrade. Like, you could convince me that, going with Dom Canzone in right field makes sense. I'm not saying I want that. I'd prefer maybe a platoon partner or an upgrade there. You could not convince me that trotting out Taylor Trammell at DH on opening day would have been a good idea. That's how you end up with the Tommy LaStellas and the Cooper Hummels, is you don't make moves like this. And then you're stuck at the bottom of the barrel going, man, if we just would have signed Mitch Garver for 2 years, $24 million, we have a clear upgrade. So they did it, like it. I am completely on board with the Mitch Garver signing. I would have been on board with any one of those 6 free agent designated hitters. I know I did a video saying to avoid Jorge Soler. I do think there's some inconsistencies there, but that probably wasn't a fair video for me to make because, again, Soler would have been a clear upgrade at DH for this team. So I'd even gotten to the point where I was completely on board with signing Soler. I can't, for me at least, and you guys handle it the way you want to handle it. I can't sit up here and say this ownership groups need to spend, they need to make upgrades, and then when they do, be like, eh. Now, if you could make a case the last few years they should have been more in on free agents. But right now, in terms of free agency, outside of Ohtani, it just wasn't happening. He was going to the Dodgers. There was no ifs, ands, or buts. Ohtani was going to be a Dodger. I don't even I will blame Stan for not being involved, and I think he could have at least taken a shot at it. But, Ohtani was going to be a Dodger. So outside of that, like, unless you're doing a trade, you're going to have to take a guy that has some risk. That's enough on Garver. I like the signing. It's an upgrade at DH. The Mariners lineup is better with Mitch Garver than it is Taylor Trammell at designated hitter. So next thing I want to talk about a little bit, there have been some rumors of Luis Castillo possibly being on the market. Now, I don't know if that's more rumors of Mariner fans having discussions. I haven't seen too much. Morosi mentioned it, I believe, on the radio the other day. Take everything Morosi has said this offseason with a massive grain of salt because he has linked the Mariners to just about anything. He's pretty much Morosi is the basketball player that shoots 800 times, makes 6 shots, gets 16 points, then says, yeah, I had 16 points. Like, yeah, but you shot 19%. Like, it's not good. So Morosi's just been throwing anything against the wall. But he saw yesterday the Red Sox signed Lucas Giolito. He is going to be making about $21 million, $22 million annually for the next 2 seasons, I believe, with the Red Sox. And listen, Giolito was, after the White Sox went to the Angels, was awful. Went to Cleveland. I don't think he did a whole lot there. So you're seeing these kind of mid-level pitchers get this type of money. And you got Luis Castillo, who all of a sudden, his $19 million a year that he's going to be making somewhere around there is looking very much like a bargain deal for the Mariners and a really good contract, which I thought it was at the time. I'm happy they re-signed him. And yeah, I think it is a bit of a steal of a contract. So obviously the rumors fly then. Well, if Lucas Giolito and guys like that are making $22 million, why wouldn't a team just go ahead and trade for Luis Castillo, who is cheaper and a better pitcher. And then the Mariners can free up some money to go do other things and improve in other areas along with what they get back in the trade for Castillo. So that's essentially a roundabout way to go over what the logic of trading Castillo would be. If this was 2019 or the Mariners were coming off a 68-win season and looked like they needed to completely rebuild, then 100%, yeah, you look to trade that contract, get some younger core pieces that could help the team going forward, and I'd 100% be behind that trade. But as foolish as I may sound, I do think the Mariners can compete in 2024. They've got some work to do still, but I do believe that can happen. And I don't think trading Luis Castillo is going to, in any way, possibly make you better. If we go to the Zips projection system, which I did the video on last week, it has Castillo projected for 4.5 wins above replacement level. Now, I mean, you can, argue that maybe, oh, no, it's going to be 3.8. No, it'll be 5. Whatever. It's a pitcher that's about a 4 to 5 win above replacement level pitcher. Very, very unlikely. Even if you're like, oh, we need offense. Even if you trade Castillo, I doubt you're going to get that value of 4 or 5 wins on the 2024 roster. You'd probably be trading for multiple pieces, and you could say, well, we got a 2-win player here, a 2-win player there, and you put them into the lineup and you got 4 or 5 wins. And that's possible, but then you're not better, right? Like, here's the thing, and I'm all for this team needs to make offensive improvements, right? The offense is certainly the weakest part of this team, but you can still get better in other areas. It doesn't have to be like, oh, we need to trade pitching for offense. Like, you're still losing that value of Castillo if you trade him. And if you do get those parts that add up to a better player, or 4 or 5 wins and you've got multiple positions filled in offense, which I doubt you'd actually get, you're still at best right back where you were. Yeah, your offense might be a little better, but now your pitching staff is Kirby, Gilbert, great. And then it's Wu, Miller, and Hancock. Are you trusting those three? Again, if this was 2019 or something, the team was rebuilding, then yeah, absolutely. Give them a shot to pitch, 200 innings and see what they can do. But I'm not ready to just hand over 3 rotation spots to all 3 of those guys. One of them, fine, 2, okay. And then, yeah, if someone gets hurt, you've got the third one that can step in, but I'm not willing to just do that right off the bat. Now, the other take of it would be, well, if they trade Castillo, they save the money from that, and maybe they get a couple bats they can plug in, and then you could go sign Blake Snell. So now you can give Blake Snell, I don't know, 28 to 30 million annually, whatever it'd be over 4 or 5 years. So you make some offensive upgrades, and you still replace Castillo with a potentially elite pitcher. Yeah, and that could work. But think about all the steps that is, right? Like, am I crazy, or is that just a lot of stuff you got to do to even then? Are you that much better than you were in 2023? I want the team to add. I'm not against trades. I'm not at all. Wu and Miller, I wouldn't love having to trade young cost-controlled pitchers, but you can justify it if you can get the right bat for it, right? They're not as reliable yet as Castillo is at the top of that rotation. Miller, if you look at the underlying numbers, there's some concern there, and Wu has some durability questions. So you could make a case trading them. Sure, you could get better. Even if you trade Castillo, even if you get a couple decent bats in there and maybe a prospect or 2 that are legit, that might be a fair trade, right? You might look at that and go, hey, that's a good trade. That is good value for Castillo, but are you better? And then, oh, well, we signed Blake Snell, and I still don't know how much better you really are after all of that. I would rather keep Castillo, sign a couple more guys if there's someone out there that you can get, or trade guys that are not more core players. Like, Castillo is still a very core player. If you go with that Zips projection system, I think he's got the second highest projected WAR in the team outside of Julio. I would put Cal on that list as well, and maybe JP or whatever. But the point is, you're arguably trading, take away the contract and everything, you're arguably trading your second best player and then trying to scramble to replace that and going, oh, see, we came out ahead. It's what I talked about a little bit with the Geno and Kelenic trades. It's not that in a vacuum they're the worst deals ever or anything like that, but it's 2 steps backwards and then trying to go 2.5 steps forward. And it's like, hey, we came out through all this a win better. Just go add guys. And I know it's easier said than done. Keep Castillo and sign Blake Snell, whatever, like, make this team better. I'm tired of having to do all the roundabout ways and having to take 18 steps to get this team to 19 steps better instead of just taking 10 steps forward. I hope that makes sense what I'm trying to say. And listen, and if Castillo's deal is, sought after because it's a bargain, then even more reason to hang on to him, in my opinion. If you've got a starting pitcher for that kind of bargain, Blake Snell's likely going to be more expensive. So then you're going to be, again, hamstrung by contracts. So in some ways, you're going to end up right back where you were. And then if you don't take that step forward, you're kind of stuck, essentially. So I would get it. I get a lot of the issues with this team come from ownership and the light pockets. And again, for whatever reason, I don't really care. The bottom line is this ownership group is, I don't know any Mariners fan that's really team John Stanton at this, excuse me, at this point. So I get you sometimes have to get creative to make things work. And is there a universe where that could work out and be a plus for the Mariners trading Castillo? 100%. I absolutely do think there is scenarios where trading him could work out. But to me, it's just it's taking the longest path to get somewhere instead of just going in a straight line. And as always, like if they do make that trade, which I don't think they will, but if they do, I'll talk about it. I'll be fair. I never come on kicking and screaming too much about deals because I'm always willing to look at both sides of it. But I would say keep Castillo, and try to add through other avenues. I just think it's getting too cute to get marginally better. I mean, and if you're just going to get marginally better, which I get it, people say, well, Jay, there's really no free agents left that's going to do anything but make you marginally better. I'd rather do it through free agency. I'd rather get a Mitch Garver, get Robbie Grossman and have him platoon with Dom Canzone. Fine. Trade some of the minor leaguers. You've got a pretty good farm system. Trade some of those guys for proven players. I'm fine with that. But when you're taking arguably your second best player, and again, you want to argue Curb, I'm not here to say like definitively Castillo's the second best, but if you're going to have the Zips projections, he is. That's a huge, huge risk for a team that's already on the fence of 500 to competing, essentially. So I think it's a little too risky. I'm holding on to Castillo. And that's just my take on that. So like the Mitch Garver signing, again, are there flaws to it? Of course, like there's always going to be, but the Mariners needed an upgraded designated hitter and they got it. Even if Garver does only play 120 games, you're still getting a fairly substantial upgrade there at designated hitter in my opinion. So that's all I've got for this video. Just want to come on and talk to you guys a little bit. Remember to hit that subscribe button if you're new. Also hit that like button. Again, helps me out tremendously. Got another video coming up today. Still getting over that sickness. So you guys know I try to respond to a lot of comments as best I can. If I don't get to it, I'm probably resting and just trying to feel better. And I'll have a Seahawks post game up later today as well. Hope you all have a great weekend. And as always, go Mariners. Peace.